now, and it's just like, yeah, this is people got to reject the system, man.
Raman has overtaken Pratt now. I didn't.
No. They're saying she's going.
Oh, you're saying that? Yes.
Yeah.
When they report that.
When they report that, like I think I saw Polymath now. Pratt's like 8% to move on.
Polymarket.
Yeah. Polymath on. I'm confusing one of our listeners with a betting site. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, man. If that happens, hopefully that'll be the wake up call. But I think that the reason why they delay these things is because the attention gradually wanes and people over time kind of settle into the fact, yes, we know we're getting screwed. They're going to announce that Spencer Pratt is not in the runoff. And I don't know that this is going to happen, but I'm saying this is what they've historically done. And by that time, everybody's kind of the response, the acceptance of that outcome is baked into the cake. People can't get passionate about it and defend it. And so they just shut up and move on. And then they still give their power away in these elections because they believe that's the only thing that can happen in the system. And, you know, we've been making this case for a long time. You can't get out of the system this way. Like this is an inescapable problem. And if they reported that we escaped the problem, it would only be because they believe that they can ride out 4 years of this person in office while the rest of the administrative state just pushes forward. And that's it. So it's just storytelling the entire time.
Yep. Even Tim Pool is talking about the fraud out in California.
Wow. It only took 6 years.
I know, right? I mean, I was on his show and he didn't let me say a damn thing about it.
He did. Crazy.
He did kind of a little bit and then was like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about or something along those lines. I don't even remember. So stupid. But yeah, he put out a post the other day, like YouTube has now taken down 3 of my videos about election fraud in California. And it's like, welcome to the club, bro. 2021 call that wants its censorship back. Like, oh man.
But man, that's going to make him stop talking about it just like it did before.
Exactly.
And he's going to say, well, I can't afford to lose my platform.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
The SAVE Act thing is going to provide a lot of cover for these people to talk about these things and then posture as though they are prepared to fix the problem. And we talked about this months ago, and I said this when Marquane Mullen was taken out of the Senate. I was like, Trump is submarining the SAVE Act, and he was out there doing it again yesterday, supporting it in a way that it can never pass. And he's doing that on a number of these issues. And I wish people would just recognize what he is doing rather than cherry pick the statements that he makes in support of it. Like he made a statement yesterday in support of the SAVE Act, and attached to that statement was an endorsement for Lindsey Graham in an election he knows to be rigged. And of course, transgender mutilization of children. Mutilization, again, is not a real word. And no men and women's sports, no transgender mutilization for everyone. But also the SAVE Act. It's so crazy.
All right. Well, let's get into the show. We, believe it or not, we have a whole segment on this right here, but we're killing it, man. We're killing it. Let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors before we get into the show, guys. Everything must go at Frequency Apps. This is your chance to stock up before inventory is gone. Frequency Apps created easy-to-apply wellness patches that are designed for everyday support with no messy creams, complicated routines, or harsh ingredients. Simply apply a patch and enjoy around-the-clock convenience wherever life takes you. Choose from over 50 patch options for support with weight management, stress, discomfort, sleep, focus, hormone balance, immune support, and more. Whether you're trying Frequency Apps for the first time or grabbing your favorites before they're gone, now is the time to save. During this liquidation event, Frequency Apps is giving our audience a 15-day supply completely free. That's right. You'll get a full 45 days of relief for the price of just 30 days. Don't wait. Shop the liquidation sale now and grab your favorites before they disappear. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/patches today. No coupon code needed. Simple, safe, and natural. Start your journey to better health now. This offer does exclude ACG, GLP-1, and Plastigon patches. All right. And then let's talk about our friends over at Native Path. This episode is brought to you by Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil, omega-3s plus astaxanthin for hearts, joints, and memory. If you've ever walked out of a doctor's appointment frustrated because all they said was, It's nothing. Just take ibuprofen. There's something most doctors aren't trained to talk about, the kind of low-level inflammation that puts a hurt on your joints, muscles, and nerves over time. Luckily, there's a unique type of omega-3 that researchers have been studying just for that. It's not fish oil. Today's sponsor has exactly what you need. Research shows that fish oil is only 50% less absorbable than krill oil, because fish oil's omega-3s are in triglyceride form, while krill oils are in phospholipid form, which is the same format that your cell walls are made of. That means that krill oil gets into your cells immediately. In head-to-head studies, krill outperformed fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain, often at lower doses. Native Path Antarctic krill is sourced from pristine Antarctic waters, contains the powerful antioxidant astaxanthin, and comes in tiny soft gels with no fishy burps. For this special offer, you can save up to 60%. Just head to getkrill.com/badlands. Again, that's GetKrill.com/badlands and try it risk-free with a 365-day money-back guarantee. All right, let's get into it. Smash that thumbs up if you have not done so yet. And I want to start out, Chris. I want to start out talking about the war that's being waged, not in Iran, not in Ukraine, between Trump and the GOP. And I've got several more indicators, man. I'm telling you, it's in full swing.
Totally.
From the Hill, House, this was 2 days ago. House passes resolution to end Iran war, challenging Trump. Again, this is not going to go anywhere because ultimately this lands on Trump's desk to sign or veto. And in order to override that veto, you'd have to find 60 senators that could agree on something. They can't agree on whether or not to brush their teeth in the morning. So it's not going anywhere. But again, just, the writing on the wall. Here's another story from the Hill. 6 GOP senators vote to block Trump's White House ballroom. Again, you can't block the ballroom. You have nothing to do with the ballroom. Nothing. But anyways, 6 GOP senators voted with Dems to block the construction of the White House ballroom unless Congress authorizes the project. They really want to feel important, Chris. They're sick and tired of naming post offices and highways. They want to now authorize the construction of the big, beautiful ballroom. The amendment would have given Congress sole authority to construct a new ballroom and barred any federal funds or private donations from being used without congressional approval. The amendment needed 60 votes. It failed 52-47. It says, and then it goes on to name the GOP senators that voted against it. It says Collins, Husted, and Sullivan are facing tough re-elections. Of the list, you have Susan Collins, John Husted, Jerry Moran, Lisa Murkowski, Dan Sullivan, and of course, Tom Tillis. Husted is trailing former Senator Sherrod Brown in the Ohio Senate race. Graham Plattner is leading Susan Collins 48-43 in Maine. And Mary Peltola is leading Sullivan in the Alaska Senate race. So, I mean, they're already laying foundation right there that these GOPers, these Republicans, the saviors of the GOP, the saviors of our union, we have to have all the Republicans, guys, are somehow going to lose in Alaska. And what was the other one? Alaska and Ohio.
Don't they have ranked choice voting in Alaska?
They do.
So that would be the path to showing us how that election result was achieved. But I mean, what's even the point of taking Lisa Murkowski out of office and replacing her with a Democrat? It's easier to tell the stories this way because she votes pro-regime every time. And, whether there's some layer behind that we are unaware of or not, the result is the same. There was a New York Times article. I don't know if you saw it. I sent it in our Badlands chat earlier this morning, but it mentioned, and I'll just pull this up quick. We don't have to go all the way through it because I think John and I probably will tomorrow night. But, did you already have it? Yeah, there you go. So it talks about how, first off, we talked last week about how the big, beautiful bill provided for all the funding Trump needs for the rest of his term. We had played the video clip of Trump saying that himself. And then right here, the Senate is said to be passing, you can see it right there in the first paragraph. Trump's immigration crackdown. Here we are. This bill is going to fund Trump's immigration crackdown through the remainder of his term. And then multiple times in this article, they mention how the effort by Democrats is for optics. The effort by Republicans is for optics. They can't actually affect any of these issues. You know, they're going to stop Congress. I laughed while you were reading that. Congress taking sole authority of Trump's ability to build a ballroom. The ballroom's already being built. You know, they're going to stop the anti-weaponization fund. Well, the court's already said he can't do it. And Trump and Blanche have repeated, yeah, we're just not going to do it. We just respect the courts. So they've already done the things that the Senate says it is doing. Trump doesn't actually need the illegitimate Congress for anything. They are trying to justify the realness and legitimacy of their body. They're trying to justify the need for congressional Republicans on the cusp of these midterms. Trump said last week he doesn't care about the midterms. You know, it's one of those things where once you accept what this actually is, all of the rest of the machinations make perfect sense through that lens. And if you are unwilling to accept what this actually is because you are clinging to the way that we've always known politics, the way it has always been programmed for us to believe it is, the way it's still programmed for a lot of people to believe it is, if you're still clinging to that, none of this stuff makes sense. It's just one party fighting the other party, and somehow Trump is fully on board with the Republicans, but they're always failing him, and still he needs them so much because finally one day they won't fail him. None of it makes any sense that way. This makes perfect sense. Like, it's time to just adjust the viewpoint and understand what we're dealing with here, because it's totally understandable. And Trump is still defeating that thing. It's not blackpilling. It's just like, this is what it is. Attack it the right way, or it's never going to work.
The entirety of the illegitimacy. I mean, obviously it boils down to fake elections, but I've been thinking a lot about, how this all got put together and how we're in the situation that we're in. And you bring up great points that, Congress can't do anything that would legitimize their role as the legislative branch of our government. And the reason for that is not because, well, I mean, they are illegitimate. However, they could still do these things. If they could get themselves together, they could do these things, and we have bureaucratic agencies out there that will enforce those rules and enforce those laws, and we would be held accountable for doing that. However, they have a buffer, and that buffer is that filibuster. And what the filibuster does, and again, I'm not making an argument for or against the filibuster here. I personally have always thought the filibuster is fundamentally retarded because we are a constitutional republic, and those as our representatives, which I don't think they've been representatives for quite a long time, but as our representatives, they are supposed to be able to effectuate things based on the majority of the country and who put them in the places that they're supposed to be. By putting that filibuster in there, you're essentially saying that the country not only has to be a majority in favor of this, they have to be 60% instead of 51%. And that gives them that buffer. Sometimes you'll get to 56%, 57%, or 57 senators rather, maybe 53, which we're at right now. Sometimes it'll be 50-50 with the Senate president breaking the tie. And they're all like, oh, the Senate president's breaking the tie. It doesn't matter. You're never going to get to that 60%. And as long as we're as polarized as we are now with the bipartisan, complex in this country, the tribalism in this country, the other side's just going to oppose that. They're going to filibuster and they're going to keep it going. The only thing that doesn't require that filibuster is the reconciliation bills, the budget bills, right? Passing, spending money. Yeah, we're all about spending money because the Federal Reserve, we're all about spending money. But anything else, you've got that 60 vote threshold. And because of fake elections, you will never get over that. You'll root to get over 50%. But in reality, you need to be rooting for that 60%. And like President Trump said at the Al Wilson dinner, we're probably 75-25. And if we had free and fair elections, we would be able to effectuate everything in Trump's agenda like that.
Well, that's true.
Just very quick.
Yes, but also they could just do, in the scenario where I accept that the Congress has a legitimate ability to pass legislation in the first place, and I do not accept that. But in that scenario, they could simply do away with the filibuster and with the majorities pass all of Trump's agenda. And then if we lost the majorities, the other party could come back in and reverse those things. And that's how it's supposed to work. The filibuster gives them all the narrative defense they need. They say, we can't reach we can't reach the level of support necessary to pass this legislation. So we're going to do it in reconciliation. Well, what's the basis of the reconciliation? Budget for ICE and Border Patrol, which Trump has said countless times he has all of from the big, beautiful bill. So they're just proposing a spending measure because that's the one thing that they actually can do, as you just mentioned. And then they have unlimited amendments onto reconciliation. So they just pile all of this stuff on there for the optics and the rest of it because they are trying to present themselves as a functional and legitimate body. They're not going to be able to do that. And Trump's not letting them do that. They're not getting any of this stuff passed. And it's funny because like people like Jake Sherman, who like he's the Punchbowl News guy who's there every day in the Capitol telling us what the Congress and the Senate are doing. It's just constantly reminding, constantly pointing out how Trump has made it even harder for them to pass the legislation they have framed Trump as wanting. But Trump doesn't care about any of this stuff because he's already doing it. And again, you got to remember the Uniparty. These people are not actually battling against each other in the first place. Okay. They're working together to push an agenda forward. And, the machinations of the filibuster and the rest of it, that's just all an explanatory layer for what is already baked into the cake. And they know it. What would be the purpose? How could they tell the country that everyone went out and voted for either of these parties when neither of them do anything?
I'm with you 100%, but all of that is meant to maintain that status quo. The whole thing is meant to maintain the status quo.
And you mean the status quo by that you mean the perception of legitimacy of the government?
Yes.
Okay,
The bipartisan uniparty, the uniparty facade of a bipartisanship, and all that's or a two-party system that is divisive on each side, keeps the money funneling in for elections and for campaigns, and keeps us at each other's throats over abortion and gun rights and all the other shit that we argue over. Yes, the entire thing is designed to maintain that. And they gave us, the filibuster has been around forever. It goes back to the 1800s, but it wasn't until almost immediately after the creature from Jekyll Island that cloture to end the filibuster came about. Like, here's that carrot dangling in front of your eyes. Every once in a while, something so important that we need to be able to break the filibuster, or we need to be able to take away the president's authority to override a veto. The whole system, Chris, and I'm with you. The only thing I'm not with you on is, they can still pass bills. And if they somehow manage to get their shit together and pass one, we are going to be held to whatever standard that bill says.
Well, that's potentially the case. But it's important to remember that we can be told they have passed legislation, and then we can watch deep state administrative state bureaucracies carry out the terms of that legislation, while all of that still remains in a layer of illegitimacy that does not comport to the Constitution and does not require Trump to go along with it, though he will, because he cannot be seen to be violating that government's illusion of legitimacy. He's not the one who's going to put that forward. That's something that we need to understand on our own. But I would just separate the parts of the government at this point with Trump in particular, with the backing of the military and the rest of it. This is even separating Trump from the executive branch, because most of the executive branch is literally the institution of the deep state. That and the Congress, I would totally agree, are working in conjunction to officialize and legitimize the entire thing. But that alone does not make it so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of that authority has been delegated to the bureaucrats anyways.
Exactly.
The administrative state has, been issuing rules in the form of laws with criminal sanctions for quite some time, and it's exponentially growing more and more. And even then, they look at decisions like Loper Bright and Chevron deference, and they're like, we don't care about that. Exactly. I talk about this, me and Alpha, and I think maybe you, but me and Alpha talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, I haven't seen anything from the Bruin case. Like where's all this Bruin shit that we were supposed to get? Bruin was supposed to be, hey, Second Amendment interpreted in the context of our founding fathers and our early founding of this country. We haven't gotten shit from that. Not anything. I mean,
you know what you just made me think of? Trump is now having the big rally on June 24th. He already dropped a "will be wild" on his announcement post of it last week, but that's maybe going to be the so we have the 12th next week. That's Disclosure Day, the Disclosure Day movie, the SpaceX IPO, and potentially the end of FISA. The World Cup starts a day before that. 2 days later, we have Trump UFC, and then he flies to France for the G7. And then on the 24th, we have this big rally in DC, a la January 6th. We already have the protest movement active because of the ICE stuff in New Jersey and the rest of it. We're getting a rerun on that. And then we're going to have the Supreme Court decisions kind of right in that block. It happens usually that last week or two of June. And so I would expect that there's going to be a bunch of overlap in some of these really significant events where the optics of the people's kind of collective opinion are going to be on display as supporting Trump, while we have the big push for the backlash from the color revolutionists and the protectors of the system.
Yep. Black Hat Destroyer says, passing any bill into law by an illegitimate Congress make those laws illegitimate. I agree. Now go out there and break those laws and try and tell the cop that it's illegitimate. Whatever federal agent comes to arrest you, try and tell them that's my point. My point isn't that the laws are legitimate. My point is that their enforcement mechanism is legitimate because we can't do anything to stop it. Like the argument, the battle that you would have to take to do that. I mean, the juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze.
I think that you're right in a direct confrontation with the government that way. And I totally accept your point. And that is all valid and probably a very realistic interpretation of what would happen. What I am suggesting is that people actually recognize that to be the real circumstance rather than just, yes, the government is going along as usual. I know there's some problems with some rigged elections and the parties can't seem to agree. And we got this crazy person in the White House, exactly how it is consistently fed to them. And then they regurgitate it out onto social media. And then it's fed back to them in just this never ending loop. Realizing the illegitimacy en masse makes it impossible for them to pull off the narrative effort required to get people to accept them as legitimate. Okay. Right now, they are able to pull that off because everyone just accepts it. If people no longer accepted it, they couldn't be passing all these ridiculous laws and people saying, oh yeah, they can rule me that way. Sure. No, if everybody knows that it's legitimate, its ability to execute on that layer that you're describing, it drops to zero over the long term.
By that same token, the federal government should have next to no interaction with our daily lives.
That's right. Yes.
As sovereign, as individual citizens, you could use sovereign if you want. Some people get triggered by that word. Most people love that word. But as individuals, the federal government should have next to no bearing on your day-to-day life. And, then you look at certain entities, and this is where the libertarian in me comes out, the DEA, the obviously the ATF, the FBI, these entities that do get involved in your lives. Again, ATF, hey, shall not be infringed, and let's create this bureaucratic administrative institution that can make sure that they can infringe all over that, right? But anyways,
John and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned some of these law enforcement agencies. That is a de facto violation of posse comitatus. That is a standing army of the federal government. And we don't treat it that way because, we say, it's a police force. It's not an army, it's a police force. And they are enforcing federal law. They're not even really enforcing federal law. They're enforcing unconstitutional violations of federal law that persist on the back of the improperly ratified, at best, 14th Amendment. So, we are so many layers deep in this. All of that shit is so Trump could call all of this a nullity and then the system melts down immediately and we get like major elements of chaos. And I think that that's what he is largely attempting to avoid. That does not mean that the people can't gradually come to these understandings and demand not to be subjected to a system like that any longer.
Let's keep going.
Sure.
I'm sure this conversation will continue throughout the show. I think that's a mutual sentiment that we all have. I think most of us listening here, especially. Here's another continuation of the war that's being waged, the covert war. 4 Senate Republicans just joined Democrats to block one of President Trump's key legislative priorities in a setback for the White House. Collins, Murkowski, Tillis, and McConnell broke with the party to help stop the Save America Act from advancing in the Senate. There's another one. Here's another one right here. I want to play this clip here. This is CNN interviewing Tom Tillis about AG Blanche and whether or not Tillis is going to confirm him.
Senator Tillis, you on this weaponization fund, are you, if this does not get added to the bill, could you support passage?
No, I'm not gonna vote to get off. I voted to get on it with the goal of potentially getting an amendment done or supporting some other members' amendment.
So why is this so important to get this, to target the weaponization fund here when it's because the president has kept this option open?
Well, even the AG has said that it's done. So I don't know why we just don't codify it so Democrats are not raising the speculation that it come back at some point. If the AG has said that, then why not codify it? It doesn't seem to cross purposes with the admin, and it takes that argument away from the Democrats. That's a win-win, in my opinion.
How do you feel about? How do you feel about him?
What about Todd Blanche? And could he get through the committee? Would he have your support? Could he get through the floor?
Well, I actually believe that getting this issue off the table improves Todd's chances of getting through judiciary and getting through the floor. If this is still out there, can you imagine what the Democrats are going to do to that man during a confirmation hearing?
But just to be clear,
can you imagine how that could?
Then let him do it to him. I'm sure Todd Blanche is a big boy. I'm sure he can handle himself. Let the Democrats do that, and then we'll actually find out about this weaponization fund, and we'll find out, let him speak for it. Why is Tom Tillis so afraid of this? I think we're going to get the answer with the back half of this.
Potentially influence a couple of our members. We take this off the table, Todd's chances of becoming confirmed as the AG go up, I believe, immensely.
But if it's not off the table, could you support if the weaponization fund is not completely off the table? If you don't codify it into law, could you support Todd Blanche as Attorney General?
We're looking at it. I haven't made a decision yet. The key for Todd or anybody going through Judiciary Committee is being pretty tight on January the 6th. They better not have said for 1 minute that the people that beat up police officers like these right down here were righteous people. You come even close to saying that, you don't have a chair of getting my vote in judiciary.
These people have January 6th derangement syndrome. I mean, look, Tom Tillis has always had that. We've known that for a while. But the weaponization fund, the anti-weaponization fund, is tied directly into January 6th. I mean, there's other, encompassed actions that get thrown into that. But go ahead, I'll let you.
I'm not on board with the idea that is primarily about January 6th even. I mean, the weaponization was widespread across all kinds of issues. And I would suggest that censorship and the rest of that is probably just as much a part of that. What do you think? I don't know.
No, I'm with you. I think it goes well beyond just J6. Right. That's the focus that they're like, how am I going to go back to my constituents and tell them that we're giving $1.776 billion to J6ers that stormed the Capitol? And again, I said this before, they don't want any of this stuff being on the record. They don't want people to see that, yes, the weaponization went well beyond just J6. I mean, we know this. Our listeners know this because we've lived and breathed it for the last 6 years. And we've covered Mark Houck and the FACE Act. We've covered what's his name? Doug Mackey. We've covered Alpha, Ash, our own people here at Badlands that have been victims of this weaponization. The DOJ went after Alpha over a tweet. The DOJ entered an amicus brief in Ash's case over voter intimidation. We've lived it. most normies out there have no idea how bad it actually got. And so they look at this and they're like, well, 1.776 billion, that's a lot of money. Well, it's a settlement first and foremost. So it could be 10 times worse. It could be 10 billion or whatever Trump was seeking in the lawsuit, first and foremost. But second, they don't want any of this information out there. And then like, here's the craziest part to me is Trump goes out there and says, weaponization bill, right? I want the anti-weaponization fund. Then he turns around. They're like, no, we're not going to do this under no circumstances. We're going to fight you tooth and nail, blah, blah, blah. And then Trump is like, they're screaming at AG Blanche. They had this big fallout in the hearing, in the meeting that they had. And they're like, Ted Cruz is out there saying it was the worst I've ever seen in Congress, in the Senate, and all this stuff. And then what does Trump do? Trump's like, I'm going to make him permanent AG. Like he just reaches out and smacks him across the face. And he's like, I'm going to make him. And what does he do? This is the art of the deal guy, right? This is the deal maker. He could have said, well, I'll take the anti-weaponization fund away if you give me Blanche. Nope. Blanche says that's probably DOA. He's named, the permanent selection. And Trump's like, oh no, the anti-weaponization, it's still on the table. It's still on the table. We're gonna talk about it. They just don't know what to do with him. He's throwing everything that they've got. That he's throwing everything at him, and they're doing everything they can to stop him. Tom Tillis. Well, the anti-weaponization fund, if that's still on the table, if we don't codify that it can't be passed, then we're not going to deal with it. Well, if we do codify that, then J6. If he said anything about J6 ever, then I'm not gonna just keep kicking the can down the road. Keep moving that Overton window, bro.
Why isn't Tom Tillis trying to codify the rest of the Trump agenda and the rest of the things that Trump wants? I mean,
how about the SAVE Act with 87% approval or whatever it is,
Yeah, they're just not doing anything except attempting to take credit for the right angle on a series of stories, which sometimes means that they're taking competing positions. It's all nonsensical. I mean, this is, in my estimation, just a discombobulator being used against the Senate and the House on some level. And I mean, that's just generally the comms strategy. And Burning Bright, I'm actually going to be on Narrative with Burning Bright on Sunday, and we're going to go through some of this presentation that I put together like 6 months ago about the discombobulator and the overall Trump comms strategy. And I'll try to make this case a little bit better there, kind of have more time to do that. But yeah, I think that he's just confusing the situation for these people, and they are inadvertently exposing the fact that they don't actually have power.
And here's the thing, keep in mind, because we see the same names over and over again, right? Murkowski, Collins, Tillis, McConnell. We'll see pretty much the same names over and over again. Now, those people, yes, they have TDS or whatever the case might be, okay, but they're speaking on behalf, because nobody in the GOP is pushing back against them, right? Nobody is coming out and crushing them in the public sphere. And so what they are just the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, right? They're the people that have to fall on the sword. Tillis is out. He's not running again, so he has nothing to fear. Murkowski is up in Alaska, and with ranked choice voting, she doesn't have much to fear up there, in a wildly rigged election. You remember 2020, a lot of people forget this. Alaska was one of those states that kept counting for several days after, and we didn't know, Alaska went 4 or 5 days before they got in and killed. I think it was Kill Chain. It might have been Hacking Democracy. At the very end, they play the guy that's like, oh, I was in Alaska's elections. I was in the system. I could have done whatever I wanted to do. I could have done it. And so again, these are people that just go out there and they disrupt deliberately so that it looks like all the other 46 senators or 49 senators or whatever it is are in line with Trump, but in reality they all want to maintain that status quo, and so they kind of just ignore those 4 people that are thwarting Trump's agenda. And so again, I still think that there's a big time war being raised, in the Senate right now, and in the House as well. Here's another example right here, Chris. CNN: House approves Ukraine aid and Russian sanctions defying Trump and GOP leaders. Like, how can people not see that this is what's going on? Now, this one I think is much more sinister. I was talking about this with the newly revealed Hunter Biden, the new Hunter Biden 3.0 or 7.0.
Yeah,
seven years sober. More than a dozen GOP lawmakers defied their own leadership and President Trump by voting to approve a major bill to deliver billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine, imposing steep sanctions on Russia. The vote was 226 to 195 to approve the package. 18 Republicans voted to pass the bill. The measure includes strict sanctions on Russian leaders and institutions, including top banks, oil and mining companies, 500% tariffs on all Russian goods. But tariffs are taxes on the people. 500% tariffs on all Russian goods imported to the U.S. and a ban on Russian crude oil from being imported into the U.S. I don't know how many Russian goods we're getting or oil from Russia, but I can't imagine it's very high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure the number.
I mean, it sounds purely symbolic, although I think it'd be fantastic if we could trade with Russia. I mean, I think Donald Trump would approve of that. I think
there's at least some reason to believe that they've already settled on that.
Yeah. Also, new military support for Ukraine, including authorizing $8 billion for arms sales and an extension of a Biden-era military lend-lease program is included. It's not clear if there are enough votes in the Senate, though, to reach the 60-vote threshold. Again, it's DOA. These are purely symbolic moves, but it shows how contentious it is in Congress, and I think that's by plan. So
yeah. The Republicans that joined with the Democrats in voting for this Ukraine package, Kevin Kiley out of California, and California is like
independent. He's an independent.
Yeah. He used to be Republican and was Trump endorsed, and he was like super based and red pilled throughout the very deadly pandemic. He was trying to take Gavin Newsom to court to get some of the restrictions loose and never was successful in doing that. And he used that to elevate himself to a congressional role, was at some point, sometimes Trump kind of guy. And now he's just a guy that votes for the Democrats in California. Then we had, wait, hold on. This was from Brian Fitzpatrick, the representative from Pennsylvania who's married to, I think it's Jackie Heinrich or somebody in the media. And then Don Bacon in Nebraska. And all of these people are anti-Trump people. They were trying to get the discharge petition through the House for a year. And then it finally worked last month. And so they finally passed a Ukraine aid package from a year ago. I mean, all this stuff is just ridiculous. It's just signaling.
Well, so the interesting thing about this package being passed is the updates we're getting on the war over there. Mm-hmm. And let me play these two clips here. This was President Trump yesterday. I got two clips from this. The first one's Peter Doocy.
Here, President Zelensky wrote a letter to President Putin. He wants the two of them to meet to hash out the end of the war in Ukraine because he thinks you are too busy with the war in Iran. Is he right?
Well, I don't know. I'm glad that they're maybe talking about me. I think we had a lot to do with it. I know exactly what you're doing, but I think it would be great if they met. They should get it done.
Mr. President.
I know exactly what you're doing, and then we followed up with this question almost right after here.
Thank you.
Mr. President, President Putin said today that he was willing to make compromises that you requested to end the war with Ukraine if Ukraine was willing to make similar compromises.
Yeah.
What were the compromises that you asked?
Well,
Putin?
I'd rather not say because Peter asked me. I think it was meant as a little wise guy question, but I'm not sure. But I'm very responsible when that happens. It's going to happen. They're going to both make compromises. I suggested those compromises. And, we've had a lot to do with it. We'd love to see they're two very good people. They're two very, incredible countries, beautiful countries. They've got to stop. Last month, they had 25,000 people killed. Soldiers, mostly soldiers. Some people, but mostly soldiers. And it's been averaging probably almost 25,000 people every month of soldiers killed. And I've been very strong on the fact that they've got to get that over with. So, but they do. I want them each to make certain compromises. I think they're going to do that. Yeah.
All right. So the interesting thing about that, Chris, is that Zelensky did write Putin a letter, and it's public. You can read it. And so at first, when I heard that, I was like, hey, so hold on. We just passed an $8 billion that's dead on arrival, but it's moving through our Congress, an $8 billion funding package, which Zelensky has been begging for, quite some time now. And he's going out there now and negotiating with Putin. He's trying to sit down with Putin, something he's been avidly against this entire time, Zelensky himself, because he knows that settling this war is ultimately his demise. And then I read the letter. And there's no, like, Putin's going to look at this and laugh his ass off. Like, he's like, oh yeah, we're kicking your ass. You're losing 6-1 for the troops that we're losing, and you're not making any progress, and your people are pissed at you, and your prices are through the roof, and we're doing great over here, but we still don't like seeing people die, but we're doing great over here. And I read that and I was like, this is a joke. This is like, Zelensky, you are not a serious person. And so that's why he wrote that letter, because he's got the U.S. Congress, at least right now, backing him. It's not going to go anywhere, but the potential for it to go somewhere is the leverage that he has. It's the first little bit of leverage that he's had in this war, and he pounced on it. He took that opportunity. So,
and he recounted all of the exact same arguments against Russia that we've been hearing from the mainstream media for, 4.5 years now? Or, I mean, I guess you could also say much longer, but yeah, none of that stuff is true. I think back about Zelensky. I mean, you said he's not a serious person. I don't know if it's the dick shaking dance that he does that that tips you off to something like that. But remember the ghost. Yeah. Remember the ghost of Kyiv. Remember when they had U2 perform in the subway? Remember when he walked Biden through the town square and the rocket alarm
sirens go off?
Yeah. I mean, it's just been so ridiculous the entire time. And I mean, Trump said he was going to stop all this in the first day in office, and he's just continued to let it play out. Most people don't know. If you asked somebody, hey, is the Ukraine-Russia war still going? They'd be like, yes. And then if you were like, well, how do you know that? And most people would be like, well, actually, I have no idea. I just haven't heard that it ended. And that's really where we are with this. It has to make you wonder why we are so invested in some of these things.
The most unserious thing that we ever got from him was his wardrobe was by far to me. Like, it screamed to me as a combat veteran, he reminded me of the boot Marine that just got out of basic training, out of boot camp, and was going out on boot leave. And everywhere he went, he's wearing either like an affliction or a grunt style or a 511 tactical. He's wearing the cargo pants, like the long cargo pants with the pockets. And, he's got a tourniquet in all of his pockets, and that's what Zelensky has looked like for the last 5 years, going to all these meetings, olive drab suits and never a tie, but he would wear like the long sleeve shirt with the, it was just so pathetic, so pathetic. And so, I've never taken him seriously. But now what I think is interesting, Chris, and I was talking about this, I would love to get your take on this. We talked yesterday because, a lot of the Hunter Biden stuff is coming back up with, 7.0 now making its way into the X sphere. I think a lot of us have always kind of had the idea that Hunter might be cooperating in some form or fashion. President Trump has said numerous times now that Hunter's pardon was the only pardon that's legitimate. It's the only pardon that's legit. And now with Hunter coming out there, he calls himself now the MAGA Whisperer. I know it's tongue in cheek, but he's called himself the MAGA Whisperer. We'll get into all this. The war in Ukraine, like, until that is over, Hunter Biden's ineffective. Like, there's nothing that they can do. With that pardon, he can testify. He can be compelled to testify about everything. And he can't lie. He can't lie about it. And so, you look at things like the Blue Star Strategies expose that John did a while back. I've written about it quite a bit as well. When you look at those things, these are like solid crimes that have been committed, coercion, foreign interference, foreign agents, that kind of thing by our elected officials, mainly his dad and Barack Obama. When he says, oh, I call him, when he says that famous, the son of a bitch was fired about Victor Shokin. Hunter can't testify about any of that stuff until the Ukraine war's over, because, I don't know, maybe I'm just, and that's why they're so desperate to keep this thing going as long as possible. That's kind of my working theory.
Yeah, that could be right. A woman in my chat this morning reminded me of this here video that I just shared.
Oh no, did he freeze or did I?
Can you not hear me right now?
I can hear you, but you're not moving. A woman in your chat reminded you
of the video that I shared into the StreamYard. Pop this up. I think that this is the right one. I found it on
Harris and I were joined by members of our COVID-19 team, response team, Dr. Tony Fauci, our chief COVID medical advisor, Javier Becerra, excuse me, our nominee for Secretary of Health.
So just so you know my life, as
Dr.
we're waiting
Rick
to do this,
Murphy,
I just
nominee for
agreed
Surgeon
to
General. Dr. Rochelle
plea sentence
Walensky,
for,
she's going to be the director for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Do you remember that?
I do. That the cut in.
Yep. Hunter Biden saying that he accepted a plea deal.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that that's officially debunked, but there it is. I mean, that happened while Joe Biden was speaking from, I guess that's the Oval Office or some room in the executive quarters of the White House. So is that real? Hard to know what that means, but there are at least some decent reasons to believe something like that is possible or even likely. I agree with you. I think that we've talked about this a number of times over the years. It makes a lot of sense. So we shall see. It's going to be very interesting.
But I think it hinges on the war in Ukraine ending, because there's a lot of people in Ukraine that are going to be complicit in this, that are going to be needed to testify, or at least they'll be indicted. I don't think you can go over there and compel that in any way, but I don't know. We'll see. Let's go ahead and jump in. Actually, you know what? We're going to go back because we kind of went over to Ukraine for a minute there. So let's get back into the U.S. But before we do that, let's get a word from our sponsor, Soft Disclosure. Promo code, softdisclosure.com, promo code Lotion Raider.
A long, long time ago, a raider went into a dangerous cave because he was on an adventure. Or like he smelled like an adventure. But the cave was protected by spiders and lizards. No, it was snakes. Snakes? Why did it have to be snakes? Whatever it was, the raider wasn't scared of it because it was Ghost, the Lotion Raider. Then he found the golden deodorant. That's not deodorant, that's the tallow bar. It was Soft Disclosure. Ghost had exactly 1 second to switch it, or the whole cave explodes! And then the boulders started chasing him. Run, Ghost, run! Oh no, he dropped the Soft Disclosure. I got it. I understand its power now. That lotion is an important artifact and it belongs in every household. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Lotion Raider for 15% off.
All right, softdisclosure.com, promo code Lotion Raider. And then let's go ahead and talk a little bit here about crypto, because I love to talk about crypto. We hear a lot about crypto. I love to talk about crypto. I think you like to talk about crypto. I mean, we know G likes to talk about crypto, but here's the part that most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your own money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you are in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels a little complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and boom, you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. All right. Thank you to Rumble Wallet. Chris, this is pretty epic. I think this is a boop right here, man.
No kidding.
No, I'm totally kidding. But the Lotion Raider, the very end, we got Ghost passing out at the very end.
Mhm.
Trump's passing out, man.
Man, the clips that they have where they say he's falling asleep are so dumb. Like, I look at them and I'm like, he's absolutely not falling asleep. He's like hanging out and staring down the bottom of his eyes.
Economy, a community, a family. And for too long,
It's so stupid. Like 2 seconds where he closes his eyes. How about
he's just listening to a voice behind him and staring down like at his desk. I don't understand how they could. Well, I do understand. Of course, people take this stuff seriously. If you hate Trump and you see something like this,
Yes.
and you want to think Trump is old and out of it because you've been saying that for 10 years, then fine. This is evidence of that. I mean, that's where we are now.
I think he's in the perfect position. I messaged Rise Attire and said, you guys need to make a Ghost boop video or post. Get Ghost and Trump just side by side like that, because he's kind of in the same position. It's reminiscent of it. Yeah, it's so stupid. The Ted Lieu Ted Lieu. Did you see that? The Ted Lieu Marco Rubio clip from the other day?
I did see that. Yeah.
Ted Lieu's like, yeah, your boss was falling asleep. He's like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
And me and Alpha covered it yesterday. And immediately, like, the first thing we said was, I mean, we're Marines, dude. We are experts at falling asleep in the most weird positions you could ever imagine. And when you fall asleep like that, man, your body goes first, your jaw drops. No matter what, you can't sleep with your mouth closed. Like in an upward position, your muscles relax, your jaw drops. Also, your neck relaxes and you go like this. And as soon as you get to a certain point, you catch yourself and you pop back up. We call it bobbing for rooster. We had to be a little more PG-13 for Badlands Daily. But in the Marine Corps, we call it bobbing for rooster. You can replace rooster with the proper word there.
Yeah.
Trump has never done that. Like, Trump has never, he's had his head down and appears his eyes are closed. And then he looks up and looks around. Yeah. He's definitely not sleeping, man. So
yeah, I would say he just looks relaxed.
I was about to say, when I'm relaxed and I want to think about something, like if somebody's saying something and I'm thinking hard about it, I'll close my eyes. I feel like you channel more energy to your brain that way. I don't know.
He also goes for like 20 hours a day. So
yeah,
just being able to zen out while someone else behind you is talking and you already know what that person is saying. Like, it's funny because giving a justification for the normal behavior we see can easily be reframed by the people who believe this shit as us just like saying ridiculous things to stick up for Trump. Because of course Biden was always falling asleep and we pointed that out. So now we're being hypocrites. You know how this whole thing works.
All right. So let's jump back in. I've been talking a lot about my Pulte theory. And just to be clear, I got pushback today from some individuals over the Arizona claims and people saying, they're pathological liars. Guys, nobody's debunked their stuff, right? And I'm not saying I believe it, but I know for certain that there is some validity to those claims, and just highlighting those people. Like, dude, I got meltdowns yesterday from a post I made on X about that. And you need to read this article. Okay, so I'm not going to read your article. I put it in ChatGPT and says, does this debunk the claim? No, it's all personal attacks against their credibility. And I was like, okay, So you're attacking their credibility. That's fine. That's fine. You should always look at somebody's credibility. You should always look at that and consider it. But you also need to weigh the claims being made. And, going back to the 2020 election stuff, there's been a lot of hit pieces about the people that have done some of the investigatory work into the 2020 election in Georgia. There's been claims made against them. And most of those claims that are made in the mainstream media, I've had conversations about those claims, and I know more about the nuance behind those claims. So that's my point is, I think Pulte is there for a reason. And I think it has to do with Trump's efforts with the Sinaloa cartel and all that stuff. But check this clip out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, a lot of the discrediting that happened back then, and people can say whatever they want about the characters, whatever. A lot of the discrediting, if I recall, was based on claims made in lawsuits against those people. And that's just not a solid basis to pretend that you know what's going on with a person. Fake claims, false claims, exaggerated claims, distorted claims, biased claims. That's what's in lawsuits. That's not an unusual thing for unsubstantiated claims to be made in lawsuits. And then the court will test those claims, and we can have another conversation about the courts. But the point is, they're not facts. It's not facts just because it's printed in a lawsuit, and it shouldn't be treated that way. And then the other thing about it is, regardless of the specific story or the specific characters telling that story, the story they told does not sound far-fetched. That is an entirely plausible way that our government is manipulated and corrupted and threatened to do what the system needs it to do, because you have the cartels to be the heavy, to be the enforcer, to be the threat over people's lives if they don't comply. And so to dismiss that whole thing based on the specifics of these characters or the specific claims they make, man, that is a crazy thing to do. And so, yeah, that whole debunking of that shit, that never made sense to me.
To be fair, they're not discrediting the claims outside the scope of those individuals' specific claims. They're saying there's still legitimacy to the story as a whole, which I it is what it is. It's tomato. I mean, if you're going to be like, oh, well, that's totally true, but don't mention that person when you mention the totally true thing. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What does it matter how somebody arrives at the truth? It's the fact that you arrive at that truth. Well, that person has a really shady past, so don't use them as a vector to get to that truth. Okay.
The other funny thing is, you said that people kind of piled on you on Twitter. There is in that information environment where there is the censorship and the algorithmic manipulation, people have an epistemology that I believe to be completely retarded. They believe that you're not allowed to say your opinion in public unless you can substantiate it with the sorts of proof and evidence that they will accept. And that's brain dead stuff. I mean, the idea that they have to accept your rationale for a claim before you are allowed to state that claim publicly, that's just nonsense. And the fact that we actually proceed that way and have proceeded that way for 2 decades at least, that's just craziness. And I know that that's conditioned into us through our schooling and the rest of it, but it's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. Well, I'll mention something offline, but let's play this clip here. Let's play this clip here of President Trump talking about Pulte.
Pulte is the acting director of national intelligence. There's been a little bit of a pushback from some Senate Republicans. Why do you think, Mr. President, he's the best person for the job?
Well, he's very smart. He's a person who's got high integrity. He's done a phenomenal job at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You probably have $1 trillion in value there. When he took over, it was much less. And I guess I'm responsible for that too, because everybody wanted me to sell it in my first term for 10% of what it's worth right now. If I would have sold it, we would have lost $900 billion. We would have lost, think of it, it's probably worth $1 trillion. And I was offered, people want me to sell it at 100 billion, a very small percentage of what it's worth now. So, and he built it up a lot, did a great job. And it's an acting position. It's not a permanent. He's not going to be permanent because, I don't think he'd want to be permanent. but he's a very smart guy, and he may find out some things about the rigged elections, et cetera, et cetera. I think he'd like to do it. I think he wants to do it very much. Got a lot of energy, but he'll be very good. Again, it's not a permanent position. We're interviewing people right now, but it's somebody just to take it over for a little while.
Does he have the necessary, in your view, Mr. President, the necessary national security experience to take on that position?
Well, I do, and I think he does actually, because he's smart. Because a lot of national security, I wasn't greatly experienced in national security, and I think I've done a really great job with it. A lot of people would say that I've ended 8 wars, and soon to be a 9th. I hope that works out too. You know.
So yesterday, before, I don't know when this press conference exactly took place, but yesterday when Alpha and I covered the Pulte thing, this was exactly our take, both me and Alpha. He is going in the election in a different way. I'm going in it in a different way, but both having to do with the mortgage, Pulte's experience as FHFA.
Mhm.
And we also went after, when they say, well, Pulte doesn't have any experience in this. Well, neither did Trump. That was a point we made yesterday as well. And that was the benefit of it. Bill Keating was asking Rubio in his hearing, well, have you ever heard in the terms of national security, strictly in the context of national security, have you ever heard the name Bill Pulte? And Rubio's like, no. And Rubio should have said, and strictly in the terms of politics, I never heard the name Donald Trump either. Strictly in the context of politics. And look where he's at right now, but he didn't say that, which was kind of weird. I thought he missed an opportunity. But Trump saying, Trump is basically saying right here, you might find out some stuff about rigged elections. I'm giving him the keys. I used this analogy last night in sit rep. It's like prom night and your son wants to go out and impress his date. And so you're like, here's the keys to the Ferrari, or here's the keys to the Corvette, or whatever the case you have. Go out and have a good time tonight. So can I keep it? Can I keep it forever? No, just for tonight. But go out and you do what you got to do. Get it done. Right? That's what Trump did. He's giving him the keys to the Ferrari and saying, go take it out for a test drive. Let me know what you think when you get back. And while remaining at FHFA, I think, now that Trump has mentioned election rigging, I think we're on it. I think this is where it's going.
That's a good call. I'm anxious to see. Although we also did have some of that same disclosure with Tulsi Gabbard, and then a bunch of people expect Tulsi Gabbard to do that before she leaves at the end of the month. So Trump saying that Pulte will do that, I don't know if that's an indication of something, but.
So 2 things. DNI was involved in specifically in 3 technically: Puerto Rico, Georgia, and Maricopa. And Tulsi did that press conference. What was it? Probably 3 or 4 months ago in Arizona, where we were all like, "Oh, this is going to be great, right?" And the only thing that I got out of that press conference was that it was in an undisclosed location, and the media had to, be bussed in there, and they couldn't know where they were going, and all. It kind of reminded me of the pit. Right. That's what it reminded me of. And that was what they did out in Maricopa. Tulsi gives absolutely nothing, but she's in this undisclosed facility, operating out of it, has a team there with her, whatever the case might be. Pulte could be working, on the Maricopa aspects of, or the Arizona as a whole aspects of the mortgage, the Sinaloa cartel. Trump has also just waged war in the Sinaloa cartel. That's expediting exponentially. It's moving along exponentially right now. We've got the 2, the former finance and securities administrator for Sinaloa that just turned himself in San Diego. We got another one that turned himself in Maricopa in Arizona. But the other thing is in Georgia, I know firsthand that there was it's secondhand, but I'd seen the documents that there was a foreign national that worked in elections and received a house, or not received, but has a mortgage through a Chinese company. And so, again, this is a guy that's going out there buying $130,000 worth of cars, a $300,000 home, and he's making $35,000 a year. That doesn't make sense. And he's paying for the cars cash. Doesn't make sense. So I think we're going to see some movement on that. And I think they understand that because they're freaking the bleep out about it.
Yeah, I think you should continue to pursue that line of reasoning with the Pulte moving from the mortgage fraud and FHFA to focusing more outwardly on the cartel and using the intelligence community insight that he would have in the new role to pursue that. It sounds rational to me.
Well, it seems like, I mean, you can look at the mortgage aspect and be like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Like there's something missing here. I don't have, this is classified, or there might be more to this. I need to have those types of resources. And so Trump gave him those resources. Trump didn't say, here's somebody at DNI that's going to be your liaison that you're going to work with. He said, here's DNI.
Mm-hmm.
He just said, here's the whole thing. You know what to do. Go in there, be a bull in a china shop, wreck house, get what you need, and get out. I think it's on the wall, man.
Makes sense to me.
Next up this is from Andrew Desiderio. Next up in the Votorama, Senator Warner's amendment to bar a Senate confirmed leader of a federal agency or department from serving simultaneously as acting director of national intelligence. Oh, targeting Trump's Bill Pulte as acting ODNI. That's how bad it is that they're trying to now pass an amendment in a bill to keep him out from being able to do his thing. Mark Warner. Where's he from, Mark Warner?
Virginia. Yeah, old school. He's been on the Senate Intelligence Committee forever. But isn't Pulte already once confirmed by the Senate? It's amazing. And who else did he move? Go ahead.
No, the bill is to say that you can't be in charge of a federal agency and acting DNI.
But literally he is right now.
Exactly. And Trump just said he's not going to be there forever. So by the time they were able to get that bill, pass the amendment in that bill, even if they were able to get it passed and effectuated and all that, he'll be gone by then.
Yeah. It's just funny that they're so scared of a guy that the Senate has already confirmed for another role.
Yep. Oh, well. So here's President Trump again talking about the Save America Act. And again, I think he's telling us, and I'm with you guys now a little bit more. I've always entertained the idea. I'll always entertain ideas, but that Trump deliberately wants the Save America Act to fail. And I think he says something here that's very interesting about that.
So you have all voters must show photo ID identification. All voters must show a little thing called proof of citizenship. Would you say that's 99-1, Mr. Pennsylvania?
I would say that's maybe 100 to 0.
I would think so. They say
it should be.
No, but they say it's 80-20. It's not 80-20. It's 99. And we've never found the one person. There's another one. And you have no mail-in ballots, but we want to be liberal, as they say, or we'll say we want to be progressive. So it's no mail-in ballots. You see that. So what's happening in California? They're rigging the election. Now, maybe we caught them and maybe they won't be able to get away with it. They tried with me. They did it successfully the second time. The third time, we made it too big to rig. Too many votes. They couldn't do it. They can only go. They sort of gave up at about 9:07 where they got slaughtered with the votes that came in. But no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. So we're being very progressive. And we just don't want cheating in our elections. And you see it happening in California. Those numbers are coming down rapidly. They found a lot of mail-in ballots last night, shockingly. So we don't want that. Then we added best of. This is best of Trump. No men in women's sports. No transgender mutilization surgery for our children. I would say that's pretty close to 99-1 also. No men in women's sports. I would say that's pretty good. We had the quarterback, Jackson is the quarterback for the Giants. He's a big, strong guy. And I said,
all right. So he goes on to bring, Jackson Dart into this. And to me, saying this is the Trump boost right here, adding those two things to it. And he says, those are 99-1. They're not 99-1. Those are the foundational principles of the Democratic Party right now. Men and women's sports and transgender for everyone. He says it all the time. That's their whole ideology. Transgender for everyone, transgender for everyone. And then he's like, oh, we're going to pass this bill that's 99-1 transgender for everyone. No, you're not. You know that. You've acknowledged that. That's part of your campaign speech going into the 2024 election. there's no way that you adding that and putting your name on that part of it, there's no way you intended for the Save America Act to get passed. And he's saying it right there.
Yeah.
So
the Save America Act's been around, or the Save Act. Now it's the Save America Act with those extra provisions, but it's been around since the fall of 2024. I mean, what are we talking about here? We're still going through. We are in the midst of a primary cycle where people are going and pretending to vote in these fake elections under the system that is rigged and must be changed, and that he's publicizing every day as rigged and must be changed. He just said to Miranda Devine 2 nights ago that 2024 was rigged as well. And I don't know how much more proof people need, to be honest.
Yeah, I've got that clip as well because we haven't played that yet. So yeah, we'll keep moving.
Brian, you're gonna love the clip that I just loaded in.
The LA County Sheriff's Department is flying in ballots from vote centers across the region. You can see the choppers landing right now. We're standing in the parking lot of the LA County Registrar's Ballot Processing Center. They land right here in the middle, and then you see workers, they're standing by to pick up those ballots and take them inside. They're picking up ballots from 8 cities, including Lancaster, Santa Clarita, Palmdale, Lakewood, Santa Monica, Van Nuys, Pomona, and Torrance. Once they arrive, the ballots are securely transferred inside, where election workers are receiving and processing millions of ballots. While most ballots are transported by vehicle, election officials use helicopters to bring in ballots from some of the county's farthest vote centers.
The county's farthest vote centers are like 20 or 30 miles away. Okay. And LA traffic is bad, but that's the middle of the night. And as bad as LA traffic is, they have 5-lane freeways that cut all across the city. All of this is a show. Helicopters bringing in ballots. And aren't they only supposed to be counting ballots that were mailed in and arrived late? What is this?
So here's another consideration here. That's the LA County Sheriff's Office that is bringing those ballots in. The LA County Sheriff, I think, is on those ballots.
Are you talking about
his office, his election?
Oh, is it?
I think he's on that ballot. I was playing around with this because I had the same clip up, and I was playing around with it, and I was like, I think the LA County Sheriff is up for election in this election. And if he's not, either way, what is the chain of custody on these ballots? Do they have a Republican and a Democrat poll observer on that helicopter? I can't imagine, if you're carrying ballots and it's enough to justify a bird that takes, costs $750 an hour to fly or whatever the case might be. I can't imagine that you have enough room on there for the lawfully mandated observers to be on board and all sorts of other things. Well, it's just going off on a helicopter. Yeah, sure. And helicopters you can't do a little switcheroo or anything like that in the helicopter. No, that could never happen. That nobody would do that.
The machine says that LA County Sheriff was on the June 2nd ballot, and the race includes incumbent Sheriff Robert Luna and 7 challengers, including former Sheriff Alex Villanueva, Villanueva, I don't know how he says it, but who was the sheriff, I believe, in 2020.
Yeah. So, you've literally got somebody that's on the ballot, his department now airlifting ballots from across the city. That's only 20 or 30 miles at night. Like Chris said, traffic. It's not the best traffic, but you've seen the videos. We've seen OJ back in 93 driving on the highway out there.
You don't need a helicopter to go from Santa Clarita to downtown Los Angeles or South LA or wherever they're doing this. I think they do it down like halfway to Orange County or something.
I did have that clip pulled up, and we're into the California segment now. So President Trump, there's big cheating by the Democrats in California. Votes are all tied up, may not be in for weeks, under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office in LA. Why the vote counting delay? President DJT. Another one he put out last night. Watch California, everybody. Our election process is as bad or worse than any third world country. The biggest difference is they count their votes much faster. They don't wait 7 days to tell you who won, rigging the election during each and every one of them. Americans are ashamed of what is happening. President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, I mean, Americans should be ashamed of what's happening. And when they find out what's happening, I hope that shame does not prevent them from winding back their new understanding through the past 6 years and applying what they now know to all of that, which intersects how they treated people, how they think of their government, the politicians they support, the way they think of Donald Trump and his supporters. Man, it is a deep hole that people are going to have some difficulty climbing out of, but it nonetheless must be climbed out of. This is the state of things.
Wasn't Villanueva like a really base sheriff?
I remember him that way. I mean, I haven't paid attention to that guy since the summer of 2020, but he was, again, and looking back on the very deadly pandemic, like a lot of the people who were pushing back on it are clearly controlled opposition at this point. So I wouldn't know what bucket to drop him in, but yes, he was, there was some pushback.
My dog just knocked my rifle case off my ottoman thing.
It's getting squirrely.
Yeah. He was laying on it last night. It was open because I forgot to put it away after I put my rifle back in the safe. And he was laying in the case, like he just plopped down on it. So he's not the only one getting involved. Benny Johnson's out there getting involved. Ooh. Chris.
Yo, what's up, guys? We're outside of a very important place here in California. You'll see it's just home to a porta-john and a giant empty parking lot. But inside of this empty parking lot is something really important in the state of California. As you can see here, we have registered voters. 26 registered voters for this exact location, 100 Sunset Avenue in Venice. 26 registered voters. Right here.
I mean, he's like acting like that's like some crazy discovery.
Yeah.
Chris, who's that cartoon character that has like the big blonde hair and he's a huge jack guy with tiny little legs? And he wears a black he looks just like Benny Johnson here, like he was in person form.
Was that from one of those animated movies? Was it like The Incredibles or something like that?
No, it wasn't The Incredibles. It was I can't remember. Somebody in the chat will get it, and then I'll pull it up. And Johnny Bravo. Here, let me pull it up. I'm pretty sure that this is Benny Johnson right here.
Chad is crushing the Johnny Bravo. They are certain.
Yeah. It's definitely Johnny Bravo. There he is. All right. So there we've got Johnny Bravo and we've got Benny Johnson. He's totally doing the Johnny Bravo, man. Totally doing the Johnny Bravo. There it is right there. Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo. All right. By the way, it's like the most. How long have we been saying that there's people registered at open lots? I mean, you go back to Liz Harris, some of the work that Ash did out in Colorado. You go back to Audit the Vote PA. We've been saying this for 6 fucking years, dude. And you think 26 registered at a lot? Try like 6,000 at a corner of a highway. Or 1,200. It's not 6,000. I'm being a little dramatic, but 1,200 still a lot. Yeah, dude, like welcome to the show, Benny. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. I mean, limited hangout to promote the SAVE Act, seems like.
These people are going to be like, when all of this comes out, they're going to be like, oh, we've been ahead of this for months. Like,
it's crazy.
Months. Years, dude, years. Oh, President Trump with Miranda Devine. Epic clip right here. Miranda's all in on it. She is all in on it.
There's a lot of problems inside.
Look, we had a rigged election. We can't have a rigged election. No. We can be nice about it. We can be politically correct. Oh, I don't want to say. I used to say that a year and a half ago, the election was rigged and the cameras would literally turn off.
Yeah.
And the anchor would say, sir, you're not allowed to say that. Now nobody ever turns off the camera because it's been proven to be rigged. Look at what happened in Georgia. Look at all the stuff that we found out. It was a rigged election. Biden lost in a landslide.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, to think that this could happen. Now, because of that, we have Russia, Ukraine. That would have never happened with me. Because of that, we had open border with 25 million, in many cases, criminal, not all.
And fentanyl deaths.
Everything.
Yeah.
He was a worse president. And we were laughed at all over the world as a country. We're not laughed at anymore. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
So
we have
how
the most
do we,
successful country anywhere.
So someone has to be punished, though, for that. So how do you do that?
Well, I
you
don't
don't
want
have to punish them all.
Yeah, I know. I'd rather not get into it, but
are you confident something will happen?
I don't want to talk about it. But let's see what happens. The election was rigged. We know who rigged the election. We know it. We know everything now. You know, we have information that nobody thought was possible, but when you get to office, all of a sudden people start giving you things. You know, it was a great, I'll tell you, 2024 was a great election. There's a lot of rigging going on there too. Because you know what? I wanted a landslide, but there were areas that were just rigged. I could see it.
So
rigged, in other words, rigged against me.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, Divine seems like she's nodding along. She's agreeing. I don't know. Maybe
she's also pushing him. She's steering him into the limited hangout version of what's wrong with our elections. And that's the part that is grating as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, people get frustrated at that because they think that any information in this direction is good for people to hear. That is not true. This is the sort of information that tells the average disconnected consumer of political information that the problem is something that they've already understood. It's baked into the cake. It's not a big deal. These are things that we kind of know about. They influence things, but not that much. That's what this effort is leading people to believe. And that is the understanding that keeps the election system in place as it is and just rides this thing out to the end until people forget and move on and they embrace something like the SAVE Act or a new election system and say to themselves, the problem is fixed. I can tune back out now and I'll be told that everything works fine for many election cycles or even generations of people putting their faith back into the integrity of a system that is incapable of integrity.
Given all that, Chris, beneficiary of a stolen election, Chris Mays, Attorney General out in Arizona, to me, the most obvious, you know, she was the most obvious beneficiary of a stolen election when she beat Abe Hamadeh by 217 votes or whatever the case was. And everybody focused on Carrie Lake in the 11,000, whatever that number, 14,000. I don't remember off the top of my head. But everything that they brought up in the Carrie Lake trial with Kurt Olson and Brian Blem, everything that they argued in that case also applied to the Abe Hamadeh, Chris Mays race because they were on the same ballot, same exact ballot. And they proved thousands of ballots in the Carrie Lake race were illegitimate. And that they never, like, nobody was ever like, hey, you guys didn't quite get to the threshold of the governor's race with Carrie Lake, but you got there for the attorney general, who was only 217 votes, you know, and never got there. So now Chris Mays is rehashing the prosecution against the 18 electors and others in Arizona after the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do this because you failed to read the applicable law to the grand jury before you presented your case. You failed to read the law on certifying elections to them. And so rather than be like, all right, you know what, let bygones be bygones, water under the bridge, Chris Mays is reconvening the grand jury to present the case again. That's desperation. That is
there any
desperation.
Is there any way any of this gets appealed further and the Supreme Court eventually has to deal with this? No.
The Arizona Supreme Court did, but it's the state Supreme or the U.S. Supreme Court likely wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't take that up. And the Arizona Supreme Court, their decision was that you would have to represent this. So she's just accepting that. So Mays would be the one that would appeal it further. And she's not going to appeal it further because she's just saying, I'll just reconvene the grand jury. And so Asso of Ana is over. All shows are why we vote now. Let's get into this clip here. Scott Bessent talking with Representative Larson, which is absolutely hilarious when this Democrat does not know what the hell he's talking about, and then has an epiphany of, holy shit, let's talk about common sense.
Are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We have moved to.
Are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax?
We would like to.
Are you able to answer that, or is that not answer?
Are you in favor? His response is beautiful. Is beautiful. Are you in favor? Are you in favor? It's because you can't answer the question.
I'm not interrupted. I can, Congressman.
Well, I'm waiting for your answer.
We have asked Congress to move to eliminate the gas tax. That is done through statute.
You have moved that. So you're in favor of eliminating the gas tax.
We have asked for that.
So we can join bipartisanly today because you're in favor to eliminate the gas tax.
Again, the White House has asked for it, sir.
They have? Why isn't it before the committee for a vote?
I don't run the agenda.
Good to hear that we're in favor of something that we can work on bipartisanly that will help relieve people who need it the most. Forgive me, but people in my district aren't doing cartwheels over this economy.
So he thought he had like this gotcha. He did everything. He interrupts him as he's answering it. Oh, that's because you can't answer the question. It's because you can't answer. Sir, we've been trying to do that this whole time. You guys are not doing it. Wait, what? It's us? It's you and you and me?
And then he gives the game away and just says, we're trying to do something bipartisanly to, and what he's suggesting is that they're going to help alleviate the boogeyman of the affordability crisis, which is not to say that things aren't expensive. Okay. But worldwide, there is a public relations campaign to project the image of an affordability crisis caused by Donald Trump's decisions around the world. And so we are supposed to blame Trump for that. And that's going to be a major part of the midterm story cycle. That's what he's suggesting right here. We're looking for a way that both parties can achieve a victory over the White House for our midterm narrative. And that's what all this stuff is. And he's just saying it.
Yep. Here's another one. This is Brooke Rollins arguing with another. And this is something, again, we've been saying this for years, that these dog and pony shows, these hearings are utterly retarded. They're nothing more than, getting your clickbait, getting your segments, your sound bites and all that stuff. And I mean, the problem is you actually have an administration now that has people that understand the problem, and they're doing something about it, and they can't fire back. So like when Larson says there, well, are you in favor of eliminating the gas tax? No shit, Sherlock, we've proposed that already. So now you've got Brooke Rollins talking about SNAP benefits in Minnesota.
According to USDA. Your state is saying we only have 1.6% fraud rate, which we all know is an absolute joke.
I'll say it again. The USDA's own data found 1.6%. I don't know.
No, we were relying on your data from Minnesota, and you won't share it with us.
The difference between error rates and fraud rates. I honestly don't. It is one of the lowest fraud rate in any program in America is the SNAP program.
The lowest fraud rate of any program in America is the SNAP program? You can't be serious when you say that.
Your own data says 1.6%.
Again, that's because the states, your state has told us that number,
once more,
and you won't allow us to confirm it.
You bragged on TV that it's a great thing that you kicked 4 million people off SNAP.
The ability to work, the righteousness of work is not
reclaiming my time. 700,000
We should be proud.
kids.
That's the goal of these welfare programs.
Madam Secretary, I'm asking you these questions because these issues, this committee, it's all personal.
You're not
to me.
asking questions for an
My
answer.
mom
You're asking questions to make a political
reclaiming
statement.
my time again.
I would like to actually have a real
My mom
conversation.
Madam Secretary, Mr. Chair, she talked over half of my time here. So look, when.
So she's saying 1.6 fraud rate. Brooke Rollins is saying, yeah, because your data says that. We want to audit the data. We're not just trusting what you're giving us because I think it's pretty clear at this point in time that there are officials in Minnesota that are complicit in this fraud. And Rollins is saying, we're not just going to trust the data you're giving us. So yes, that 1.6 is your data. Don't use that to put, to discredit the things that I'm saying. I think it's fantastic watching this and just watching the pageantry, the childlike pageantry of Mr. Chair. She spoke over me the whole time. Yeah. Oh, God, these people are so fucking insufferable.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to make internet content.
Oh, man. All right. So where are we going to go next? We probably got a couple more stories we can get through. SPLC, there's a superseding indictment that has now come down. Justice Department says it has obtained superseding indictment against SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, with new details on donor funds. The Justice Department says the superseding indictment was returned by a grand jury in the Middle District of Alabama, alleges $4.1 million worth of tax-exempt funds were used to pay informants inside the extremist organizations who engaged in activities, including recruiting new members and purchasing materials for cross burnings and Ku Klux Klan robes and hoods. So they're arming their quote unquote enemies. The Justice Department's allegations that the SPLC made these payments without disclosing the practice to donors and by defrauding banks. Quote, this apparent superseding indictment attempts to shore up the flaws in the initial charges, but it changes nothing, says SPLC's lawyer, Abe Lowell, in a statement. There's Abe again. Old Abe, old Abe, old Abe. The SPLC did not lie to its donors. It did not mislead banks. It did business with, and its informant program prevented violence and saved lives. Did you tell the banks or your donor? Did you tell your donors that you were using their donations to buy crosses and robes for the KKK? Was that part of like the donor form? Like, your funds will be allocated to the KKK and neo-Nazis for swastikas and other shit.
Well, people donate to them so that they will solve racism. And if they tell those people that they are solving racism and that this is what they need to do it, which is the argument Abby Lowell is making, it's difficult, I think, to legally argue with that. Are they not allowed to do this? I mean, I know that it's dishonest and it's hypocritical, and it is it gives you like a framing for how these things work, for how the NGO system actually creates the problems that it claims to be solving so that it can launder and waste money. And you could call it taxpayer money, but it's really just money that is printed and then assigned to the taxpayer. Is that illegal, or is it just something that we all should know and then make sure that this organization never gets money ever again? I mean, I'm not convinced that that is illegal, or that it even should be illegal. The fact that people get hoodwinked by this shit eventually has to be the fault of those getting hoodwinked, because it's not like we have to get hoodwinked by this stuff.
It hinges on misleading versus outright fraud, whether they lied about it or whether it was misleading. And it goes on to talk about that. And the new superseding indictment takes away the phrase misleading their donors. Again, I'm with you. I don't know if they'll rise to the point, if they'll be able to get to the point where they believe that the donors, like they told the donors, this is not what was happening. Because that's ultimately what you would have to be telling the donors is, we're doing this, this, and this with the money. And if you did use something as broad as we're ending racism, sure, you can make the argument the only way we could end racism is by getting into these organizations and pushing them in a certain direction. And, but ultimately, I think that goal is the expose that a lot of these organizations, I mean, Charlottesville, almost entirely funded now by the SPLC. Yep. When you see that, like, and then we see like, one of the most racist things that happened, the Fine People on Both Sides hoax that came out from Charlottesville, that was what was used to promulgate the idea that America is fundamentally racist. Just look at what happened in Charlottesville. Also, that was the SPLC that funded that and orchestrated almost the entire thing there. And you go back to I'm sure we'll find out about Patriot Front and, the organizations. Remember the rallies that they did in DC where they had, the dudes in the blue shirts with the khakis and the guys standing around, and the Fed picture where the guys are all looking with their aviators on, like all of this shit, right, is going to come back on them. And so, that's a good point. Maybe the object of this is not to get convictions, but rather to just disparage the organization so much that people see what it really is?
I just think in the macro picture, the point we have to take away from this stuff, because the details are on some level ultimately unknowable. We cannot expect the system to punish itself. But what we can do is understand on a widespread basis what is actually going on and extract our power back from that system on the federal level, the NGO level, and the rest of it as much as we can, and redirect that energy toward the local level where we might actually have some effect in the day-to-day lives of ourselves, our families, our friends, our communities, et cetera. And then if we are able to do that successfully, maybe we can build back up to effectiveness on the state level. And then at that point, determine whether we need the federal structure at all. And I'm going to say, I'm not convinced that we do need it. The way that would have to operate to, prevent destabilizing society is to have that gradually taper off over time. I'm not suggesting we just end the federal government in a day and let the system figure itself out. Although I would suggest that I think we can do that probably a lot faster and a lot better than people think that we can. I don't think it would just be an immediate collapse, because people don't want it to collapse. And when the situation changes, people will adapt, and they will adapt more quickly depending on how severe and threatening the situation becomes.
All right, we got a few more minutes. We covered this yesterday because it was breaking. It's also broken. John Bolton reaches plea deal over mishandling of sensitive national security information. He will ultimately plead. He was charged with 18 counts. He'll plead to 1, meaning 17 counts that he won't plead to. I'm sure there's a comma there somewhere. $2.5 million in fines. Me and Alpha yesterday, were saying that the fact that he likely won't do any jail time, but has to pay those fines, probably means that he's cooperating. I don't know if I'm as on board with that as I was yesterday. Jump down here in this article, and it talks about, a retired Air Force officer, 3 years in prison for the same thing. Another FBI analyst, 4 years in prison for the same thing. But then you get down to, and Jack Teixeira, the Air National Guard guy that got 15 years for posting it on social media. But then you get down here to the bigwigs and the very important people, and Bolton actually got kind of stiffed compared to some of these guys. NSA advisor Sandy Berger was only fined $50,000 after pleading guilty to smuggling classified documents out of the National Archives by stuffing them in his pants and socks before hiding them under a construction trailer, only to later cut some of them up with a pair of scissors. David Petraeus pleaded guilty, CIA director at the time, pleaded guilty in 2015 to 1 count of retaining classified information that he used to share in his diary. He was fined $40,000 to $100,000. I don't know why they don't have a definitive number, and given 2 years of probation. Now, maybe Petraeus was cooperating in some form or fashion with a case at the time, but I don't know if I'm as bullish on Petraeus or Bolton, becoming a state's witness, or if this is just more of the status quo. And I don't mean to black pill on that, but I'm just going to tell you guys the truth on it.
I don't think that that's blackpilling. It's possible that that's not what he's in this position to do. But I will just say Steve Bannon kind of seems like he has his finger on the pulse of some of this stuff, at least where it's going story-wise. And he did say yesterday that he thinks that's what Bolton's future is. So we'll see.
That he's going to be a state's witness?
Yeah. That he's going to like roll on some people or whatever.
I agree. And the thing that still gives me hope in this is that you have an administration that these people have been weaponized against, and that's President Trump, right? He's got a chip on his shoulder. There's no, we're not going to sugarcoat it. He's got a chip on his shoulder. When Petraeus and Berger did that, there wasn't any chip on the shoulder. It's like somebody accidentally stumbled upon this, kind of like Joe Biden's documents in his garage. They stumbled upon this. It got out into the public, and they had to do something to justify it. Bolton is a guy that basically was insubordinate to President Trump, is acknowledged orchestrating coups across the globe. And there is a desire to extend this investigation beyond Bolton. And so I do think that that's the one thing that gives me hope in this, is that there's a huge difference between the tone between Petraeus, Berger, and Bolton and where we're at right now. So I don't want people to get, I'm a little bit, I took a foot off that rug. I was fully on the rug and I took a foot off. I'm still like, and my weight's mainly on the foot that's still on the rug. Okay.
Well, that's cool. You just have to say, hey, maybe it's the floor, maybe it's the rug. It's impossible to know.
What else do we have here? I think that might be it. Oh, we got to get to the Hunter Biden thing just real quick, briefly. What the fuck? This is Hunter Biden saying this. WTF timeline are we on? Someone called me the MAGA whisperer, and I'll gladly take the title. Left, right, D or R, we all want the same things. We're being divided on purpose by the Epstein elite oligarch class, because as long as we're at each other's throats, they get fat and rich off our misery. The second we figure out we agree on more than we disagree, they're done. Love your neighbors, be yourself, radical honesty, no fucks given, no fucks taken. Everything else is just noise, but still, fuck Jake Brick Tamland Tapper on any timeline.
Basin red-pilled Hunter Biden. It's funny that Hunter Biden is reflecting the same slogans as Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Ro Khanna.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like there'd be a he's vowing to be the populist leader.
Indeed.
Yeah. And he's got the backstory, right? The addict who struggled, and like they're grooming him. He's being groomed. Didn't he marry his current wife after like 6 days? I think Ship was talking about this the other day, that Hunter has a very unique track record of getting involved with women very quickly that end up handling him ultimately. I don't know. The MAGA whisperer strikes again. He puts on post, and this is President Trump yesterday.
I have a question about Hunter Biden. He's on social media now, and he has suggested, maybe joking, I don't know, that he could run for president in 2028. How would he do, Hunter Biden, in a 2028 Democratic primary?
Well, you would think that, past has something to do with winning an election. And I would say his past is not the greatest. Where's Hunter? Right? Remember my Where's Hunter? It became the #1 shirt anywhere in the world for about 3 weeks. I'm not going to say bad. I'm sure, hey, if the guy from Maine can do well, I guess Hunter could do well too, because the guy from Maine is a basket case. And I would say worse than him is the one from Texas. That looks like Alfred E. Newman. I would say that if he can do well, maybe Hunter can do well. I'm not sure. It'll be pretty close as far as I'm concerned.
And then President Trump truthed this out. I think this was this morning, late last night. Hunter Biden sitting down, drawing the greatest president with a very nice pencil drawing of President Donald Trump. Did you see this post that Hunter put out? I mean, you're totally right. He is trying to appeal things most Americans agree on. Groceries cost too much. Tariffs suck and make no sense. I disagree strongly with that. Congress and presidents shouldn't trade stocks. I agree with that. The debt is a mess. 100%. The border should be secure, but legal immigration is good. I'm 50-50. The border should be secure. I don't think legal immigration is necessarily good, but I think that there needs to be a way for it to happen. Endless wars are stupid, especially ones that nobody wants to have and have never been explained. Agreed. Americans are exhausted. Agreed. AI, I actually like the AI one. AI is like my new best friend that also might want to try and take my job, my ability to think for myself and my humanity in the process. Yo, like I love you, but WTF, but I still love you. I actually like that assessment on AI. Diversity is actually awesome. The opposite is boring AF. Don't agree with that at all. Canadians are super fucking cool. Don't agree with that at all. Although I do like a lot of Canadians, but I don't think they're super fucking cool. I mean, maybe in the literal sense, because it's way colder in Canada than it is in Florida. So maybe in that sense. Mexicans are chill. I mean, they do smoke a lot of cannabis. And so I can get behind that. Putin isn't a good guy. Looking out for America's best interest. Rocky IV and Miracle are great movies. At least the latter half is true. Good neighbor. All right, we can end there. Basically, you see what I'm getting at. He's trying to lay out the populist. He's making the play there. He's making the play. And
yeah, he sounds like an Instagram influencer, is writing his posts.
Yep. Or AI, which is also not his friend, but is his friend. All right, a couple rants here. Emerald Dragon, morning, gents. CannCon, just wanted to send a quick condolences from my family to yours, my friend. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. Doc from Amish PA, can't listen live, just didn't want to break the streak. Y'all have a great weekend. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate that. And EC, of course, with the raid. Thank you guys all so much. Smash that thumbs up if you guys have not done so. Miss Rise, I sent you a DM on X. I don't expect. I would love it if you would make a ghost meme with Trump sleeping in the Oval. Sleeping in the Oval. All right, brother, what you got coming up, man?
DPH tomorrow night with John, and then I'll be on with Burning Bright for The Narrative on Sunday evening. And I am about to post a piece of writing. I always think that I'm almost finished with these things, and then it ends up taking me much, much longer. But I'm your moderator.substack.com is where you can see that sort of thing and all my only social media feeds. So,
all right,
check it out.
Guys, June 25th through the 28th, Badlands Media is heading to Deadwood. Be sure to check that out. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. Get your in-person or online tickets. We had our first exclusive live stream yesterday at 3 p.m. You can go back if you have if you have an in-person ticket, you can go back and check that out. We will be doing the little golf outing Thursday at 8 a.m. at Boulder Canyon in Deadwood. It's just outside of Deadwood. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me an email, cancon@cancon.net. It is not competitive, although we'll have a competitive aspect to it, but anybody can show up. Like, you're not going to be judged. We're going to try and do groupings where you go out with a host, try and do it like one per group, that kind of thing. And I think we might have, we'll just land that there. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.